Have you ever been judged by something you can't control? Imagine being treated with disrespect simply because of your skin color. But what if, instead of reacting with anger, you choose to do something that would leave the person who wronged you completely speechless? What happens when kindness hits someone in the most unexpected way? The scene opens with the bright, sunny glow of a busy upscale restaurant. The hustle and bustle of a well-kept dining space fills the air. The clinking of plates, the chatter of satisfied customers, and the soft hum of classical music blend together, creating a sophisticated atmosphere. The staff moves with purpose, carefully attending to the patrons as the day moves on. In the midst of this, a man walks in. He's dressed impeccably, a well-tailored suit, polished shoes, and a confident stride. His presence is magnetic. It's clear he belongs here, but there's something else about him that draws attention. As he walks toward an empty table, the camera briefly focuses on the waiter. He's serving another table, but as his eyes meet the black man entering, his body language shifts a subtle but noticeable change. His smile tightens, and a brief flicker of disapproval crosses his face. Though the restaurant is full of laughter and pleasant conversation, a slight tension fills the air as the black man sits down. The waiter approaches the table, his steps deliberate, his gaze cold. His attitude, though masked with forced politeness, reveals a sense of superiority. As the waiter approaches the black man's table, there's an almost imperceptible shift in his expression. He places the menu in front of him, but his actions are slow, deliberate, almost dismissive. The black man notices the waiter's coldness, but chooses not to react. Instead, he simply nods, accepting the menu with a calm smile. The waiter lingers for a moment, glancing down at the man's attire, then back at him, almost as if sizing him up. He doesn't bother to ask if the black man needs help with the menu. Instead, he walks away without a word. The black man's eyes follow him, but his expression remains unshaken. Minutes pass before the waiter returns, this time with a not-so-friendly greeting. "Anything special you're looking for today?" he asks, his voice laced with a subtle sarcasm. The black man politely responds, "Just the special of the day, please." The waiter, now visibly irritated, rolls his eyes as he walks off to place the order. He returns shortly with the food, placing the dish on the table with unnecessary force, making a loud clink as the plate hits the table. "Here you go," he says, his tone still cold, dripping with indifference. Every little movement of the waiter seems to suggest that he believes the black man doesn't deserve the same respect as other customers. He doesn't offer refills on water, and when asked, he takes longer than usual to bring a new glass. At one point, he walks by the table, ignoring the black man's attempt to ask for a condiment, acting as though he hadn't heard him at all. The black man notices, but his response is nothing short of composed. He remains polite, offering no indication that he's bothered by the waiter's attitude. His calm demeanor frustrates the waiter further, who clearly expected a reaction, perhaps even anger. But all he gets is a quiet, collected man who refuses to let the waiter's rudeness disturb him. As the meal continues, the waiter's behavior becomes increasingly more noticeable. He refills the black man's water glass, but just enough to avoid an awkward silence. Each time he walks past, he deliberately avoids eye contact. He lingers near other tables, offering excessive attention to white customers, while barely sparing a glance for the black man. The black man, however, remains unaffected. He enjoys his meal in silence, seeming completely at ease, his presence calm in stark contrast to the growing frustration of the waiter. The waiter's irritation is mounting, each passing minute adding to the tension in the air. Every time he serves the black man, it feels as though he's barely holding it together. His hands are a little more tense as he places the plate down, his movements less fluid than before. In the kitchen, as he grabs a fresh batch of bread rolls, the waiter mutters to himself under his breath. "Typical. Thinks he can just waltz in here like he's one of us. Probably gonna leave some lousy tip." The thought stirs a deep resentment within him. People like him always expects special treatment. As he walks back to the black man's table, he can't help but steal another glance at the bill. His mind starts to race. What's he going to do? A small tip? Maybe nothing at all? It's not like he deserves any better. The waiter's thoughts are clouded with judgment and stereotypes, fueling the discomfort in his chest. He notices the black man's calm demeanor once more, and for a brief second he wonders why this man isn't reacting as he expected. He's just going to take it, huh? Maybe he knows his place. The tension between them is palpable. The black man, completely unaware of the waiter's internal struggle, continues to enjoy his meal, his mood unbothered by the subtle hostility. Meanwhile, the waiter's behavior becomes increasingly sharp, almost like he's trying to provoke a reaction, but still not daring to cross any lines too far. The meal is over, and the black man stands up, buttoning his jacket with ease. He takes a moment to glance around the restaurant, the tension that once filled the air now replaced with a quiet stillness. The waiter, standing nearby, watches him expectantly, eager for the moment when he will leave, ready to pass judgment on the tip. As the black man walks toward the exit, he reaches into his wallet. The waiter watches, anticipating the usual scenario, a small, perhaps barely noticeable tip, if any at all. But then something unexpected happens. The black man places a crisp stack of bills on the table. The waiter's eyes flicker with confusion as he sees the number. $10,000. It takes a moment for the numbers to register. His mind races. Did he see that right? A huge tip. For him? The waiter hesitates, staring at the money in disbelief, his body frozen for a moment. His face flushes with a mix of confusion, guilt, and disbelief. He had expected to be left with a small amount, perhaps a reminder of his earlier behavior. But instead he is faced with the exact opposite, an extravagant gesture of generosity. He looks up to see the black man walking out, his posture still calm, unbothered by the impact his actions have just made. The waiter stands motionless, his hand still hovering near the tip, unsure of what just happened. His mind is a blur. Why? Why would he do this after everything I've put him through? The thought lingers in the air, unanswered. The waiter's expression shifts again, this time from confusion to shock. His chest tightens, and for the first time he feels small. His previous arrogance, his assumptions, his coldness, all of it falls away in that moment. He can't comprehend it. The kindness shown to him is overwhelming, and it forces him to confront the very behavior that had once seemed so justified. The black man leaves the restaurant without a glance back, but his actions have already spoken louder than words ever could. The black man exits the restaurant, his footsteps fading as the door closes behind him. The waiter remains rooted to the spot, his eyes locked on the stack of bills left on the table. Time seems to slow down as he continues to stare at the tip, his mind unable to process what just happened. The restaurant around him continues to buzz with activity, but he's disconnected from it all. The noise fades into the background as his focus shifts inward. He looks down again at the money, $10,000 in amount, that seems so out of place in his hand. His breath catches in his throat. Slowly, the weight of the moment begins to sink in. His chest tightens, and a knot forms in his stomach. Why did he do it? His eyes shift toward the door, as though expecting the black man to return and explain himself. But there's nothing. Just silence. The waiter's mind starts to replay the events of the evening, every glance, every action, every comment. He remembers the moments when he treated the black man with indifference, when he acted coldly, and when he assumed that he would get a typical, ungrateful tip. But instead he was met with generosity, kindness that was undeserved, given to him after he had treated the black man with such hostility. As the realization hits, the waiter's face flushes with guilt. His mind races. I treated him like he was less than me, because of his skin color. The thought stings. His hands tremble as he wipes them on his apron, trying to shake off the weight of his actions. He starts to question everything he believed, the assumptions, the judgments he had made about the black man and about people like him. Why did I think he didn't deserve respect? His thoughts spiral into deeper reflection. Why did I act like that? The guilt begins to build up, stronger and stronger, and with it, a deep sense of shame. The waiter looks down at the tip once more, but now, instead of seeing money, he sees a symbol of his own ignorance, his own arrogance. The gesture wasn't just about the money, it was about the message behind it. Why was he so cruel? Why did I treat him that way? His once firm, unwavering beliefs are now called into question. The waiter stands there, still holding the tip, but this time his grip is softer, more respectful. His fingers gently trace the edges of the money, as if he's seeing it for the first time. The weight of his actions lingers in the air, but now, instead of shame, he feels a growing sense of responsibility. His once narrow view of the world has shifted. He glances around the restaurant, his eyes catching the faces of the other customers. But this time, his gaze is different. It's no longer filled with judgment or prejudice. The simple act of kindness the black man had shown him has ignited something deep inside of him. The realization hits him harder than any slap could. He had judged someone solely based on the color of their skin, and that judgment had been wrong. A quiet vow forms within him. He promises himself that he will never allow this type of hatred or bias to guide his actions again. The next time he interacts with someone, regardless of who they are or where they come from, he will approach them with respect, kindness, and empathy. As the day continues, the waiter feels a shift within himself. He's no longer the same person who had walked into work that morning with preconceived notions. The lesson of the black man's generosity, the lesson of humility, has changed him forever. He knows that kindness and respect are more powerful than any prejudice he once held. The restaurant buzzes with its usual energy, but the waiter stands quietly, reflecting on what has just happened. The black man's simple act of kindness has left a mark on him, a mark that will guide him for the rest of his life. It wasn't just about the money. It was about showing someone the human decency they deserved, regardless of what they looked like. And with that, the waiter makes a silent promise: no more judgment, no more hatred. Just kindness, the kind of kindness that changes lives.